Air Combat is a PlayStation 1 launch title, released on June 30th, 1995 in Japan and September 9th, 1995 here in the United States. However, the game is based on an arcade game of the same name that was released all the way back in 1993. None of the footage I am showing is from that game, and I did not play the arcade game at all at the time of writing and recording this video. For now, I am just sticking to the PlayStation 1 video game. Air Combat is a flight simulation action game. This is new ground for me since I have never played a flight simulation game before. Because of that, I will not be comparing how accurate the game is to real life flying and dogfighting. There are people much more knowledgeable about planes, air combat, and this franchise as a whole that could do that for you. Summary will not take long. In 1995, an unnamed terrorist organization took over the Scully Islands in the nation of Usia. Afterwards, this organization launched attacks across the globe. However, in response to this, a mercenary Air Force focused group has been formed to stop these terrorists from fully taking over the government. This is where you come in. As part of the mercenary group, you will be traveling the skies all over the Scully Islands, destroying enemy bases, ships, planes, and at some points protecting your own allies from enemy attack. That's it for this game when it comes to story, which surprised me a little bit on first playing. I don't know much about this franchise, but I have heard it be compared to Metal Gear before when it comes to storytelling. But to be fair, this is the first game in the franchise and still 1995. And it's not like the first game on the MSX Metal Gear was also a story-rich game. It really wasn't. So I'm going to assume that this is a case of humble beginnings, just like that franchise. Regardless, the story works well as an opening hook, but the gameplay is what really kept me going. Air Combat keeps much of its arcade roots in this game. However, the level-to-level structure works great. None seemed overly difficult or drag on too long. Even the levels where you have to fly through a canyon I found to be a nice challenge, but not overly demanding. I did not try every plane in this game, but all the ones I did try I found to be fun to pilot and control. Using the D-pad for control felt a little bit clunky at first, and I admit on my very first attempt I did crash into the ground head first. However, on my second attempt I was on my feet again, or in this case, wings. Besides the D-pad, my only complaint is that this game prefers if you pilot in first-person mode. Going into third-person removes the local radar and other HUD features. Luckily, you can swap between first and third-person easily. Every plane comes with a missile and machine guns. The machine guns are fine, but not optimal unless your target is close and flying in a straight line. However, missiles come with a lock-on, and unless you fire when the target is making a sharp turn or off camera, they will usually hit. Even if they don't, I found the game to be very forgiving with your missile count. Same goes with the fuel gauge, which never got close to being empty at any point during my playthrough. All planes can seemingly hold the same amount of missiles and machine gun ammo. The only difference between the planes besides visual is things like how much damage they deal, how fast they are, how fast they gain altitude, how good are they at turning. What I'm trying to say is that you will never have to worry about not using a plane you like because of something like ammo count. As all the planes have the same amount and all the missions are about destroying objectives, you can make your choice based purely on preference. The only mission where I felt like I needed to really think about what plane to use was the canyon missions. I wanted to use a slower, easier to control plane because of how narrow the canyon was and how tight some of the turns would be. I'm sure that some people are so good at this game that they can fly whatever they want during those levels, but I just wanted to be safe. Besides, when else was I going to use the A-10, which has just as much fuel and missiles as an F-16? You're going to need those fuel and missiles, however, as levels not only have primary objectives, which must be destroyed to complete the level, but also secondary targets that don't have to be destroyed, but will grant you money for doing so. Money that will go towards other planes you can buy, or replacing your own planes that you may have gotten destroyed. Besides that, you can use the extra money to pay for other wingmen to join you on your missions. You can tell them to guard your tail or just do their own thing. I did not use this feature much as I wanted to save my money, and I felt myself to be more than capable. However, the 2 times I did have a buddy with me, they seemed more than capable of just protecting themselves. It was hard for me to focus on them as some missions just have so much going on. Early missions usually just have a few enemies in the sky, maybe some anti-aerial weapons on the ground, but later on you will have a lot of enemies in the sky, boats with anti-aerial machine guns and lock-on missiles, and those missiles can really do a number on your plane's health bar if you're not careful. So if you find yourself being overwhelmed, feel free to bring a buddy with you on those missions. It would also seem that you do not have to do every mission to beat this game, as some missions split off into branching paths and can be done in different orders or not at all. I enjoyed the game enough to do all the missions regardless, plus I wanted some extra money in my pocket. So I truly don't know from personal experience if level skipping is possible, but I would not encourage it, as I never really found a level I really wanted to skip or found to be frustratingly difficult. Besides, the game does give you a briefing of what to expect in a level. They'll show you a map of terrain as well as enemy locations. Sometimes they warn you that they don't know what enemies you'll be going against because the intel has not come back yet. I really love the immersion in these briefings. They brought just such a depth to the game, and it really made every new mission something to look forward to. I wanted to see what challenge or area the game was going to throw at me next. Overall, I found that Air Combat's gameplay loop to be simple, but very fun and rewarding. I eagerly look forward to what the next level had to offer, and did not feel burned out. The game only took me roughly 6 hours to beat as well, so the game is far from overstay its welcome, but I also did not feel like I immediately wanted more. The final boss was good. It's actually the only level where I died more than once, and it felt like a true test of my dogfighting skills skills I had learned throughout the game. Plus, I'm just a big fan of final bosses that are big and mechanical, and what's not to like? Plus, the music was great. Speaking of music, Air Combat's soundtrack I found to be nothing short of fantastic. If this game was more well known, I feel that it would be included in the list of great video game soundtracks. From the intro to the menus to all the levels and even the final level theme, I found every track to bring something to the table. The menu themes are a little bit more calm but get you excited for the mission coming up, and the music in the levels is super punchy and full of energy, while the final level theme really brings that cinematic feel to the level. If I had to pick a favorite track, it would have to be Head First, which I'm going to assume is not a hot take because it is the most viewed track on YouTube Music. Graphically speaking, I found Air Combat's graphics and presentation serviceable. The map of the Skull Islands working as your level select looks cool, and in the levels the planes are all modeled well enough, I would say. Still, some things have not aged the greatest. The walls on the canyon levels and canyons themselves are pretty basic and have very simple geometry, and levels with the ocean just look like a sea of blue but with white streaks in them. However, the desert levels do portray the dips and dives of sand dunes pretty well, so it's not all basic like the ocean. The two levels that really stuck out to me visually was a level that took place at night over a city, because I love my nighttime urban settings, and skyscrapers with advertisements on them just look really cool when you're flying super fast. I think the low poly of the PS1 just enhanced the feeling that this level gave. Second is the level with a giant bridge that I had to destroy. Just a great set piece, and an objective that actually physically altered the environment in such a major way was a great addition to the game. I would have liked to see more unique set pieces in this game, and if I could have asked for anything that this game could have brought more to the table, it would have been that. I do have to cut this game some slack since it was a PlayStation 1 launch title after all, and 3D technology was new ground for a lot of developers. Plus, I did not capture footage of this game on a CRT TV, which is what these games on the PlayStation 1 were built for. So many graphical tricks used to hide some of the age that this game had didn't really work for me, so I'm going to go easy on it. Still, none of that really bothered me because of how smooth this game runs. I'm honestly impressed that it had no slowdown, even with all the speeds that the plane was moving at and the explosions and machine gun fire going on. Perhaps modern day AAA gaming has ruined the idea of slowdown ever being a thing for me. To conclude this very short video, Air Combat I found to be a pleasant surprise. Dogfighting simulation on the PS1, I really didn't know what to expect, but it was well worth my time. Flying around, shooting down other planes, all while a hype soundtrack plays, sounds like a great evening. This game goes for very cheap on sites like eBay, and since it was a launch title, you might be able to find a copy at your local older game store, assuming you have a store like that near you, of course. Sadly, no easily accessible port of this game exists as far as of today. I assume it's because of licensing issues with the planes, similar to why Gran Turismo games never get ported either. That or Namco just hates making video games. I can't really decide on which reason makes me more sad. However, this game did not make me sad. In fact, I dare say it even made me happy. I will have to process this emotion. Meanwhile, I'll be moving on to Ace Combat 2. I'll see you all again when the video is ready. Goodbye for now.